Jake's evening was quiet, as usual. The hum of machinery and the hiss of old freighters in need of repair a comforting background. After closing up for the day, he wiped his hands on his grease-stained coveralls, grabbed his metal toolbox, and settled in to tinker with his hoverbike. It was an old habit, something to keep his hands busy and his mind at ease. As he opened the toolbox, he immediately noticed something that didn't belong. Amid the familiar jumble of tools, his gaze fell upon a peculiar object, unlike any wrench, bolt, or spanner he owned. He lifted it carefully, feeling a surprising weight for its small size. Its surface was smooth and iridescent, shifting between shades of green, blue, and silver under the dim lights. It looked like it was forged from some strange, otherworldly metal, almost alive with energy. A faint hum resonated from the device, as if it was breathing, and tiny patterns on its surface shifted and swirled, reflecting colors he had never seen before. Intrigued, Jake turned it over in his hands, searching for a familiar latch, handle, or button. It had no markings, no seams, just that odd indentation near the top. Jake squinted at the mysterious device, running his rough, calloused thumb over the indentation, which felt almost warm to the touch. Was it a switch? A button? His curiosity got the best of him as he gave it a gentle press. Instantly, a soft, pulsating light erupted from the tool, casting an otherworldly blue glow across the dark corners of his workshop. The light felt alive, like it was scanning him, reading his every move. Before he could even think to let go, he felt a strange tingling sensation course through his arm, a prickling that traveled from his hand up to his shoulder. The device began to hum louder, vibrating with an energy he could feel in his bones. The walls around him started to blur, the steady, familiar outlines of his workshop dissolving into streaks of light and shadow. Jake tried to pull his hand away, but it was as if he were anchored to the spot, held in place by some unseen force. A low rumble filled the air, echoing like thunder from somewhere deep within, yet somehow everywhere at once. His senses were overwhelmed. Time seemed to stretch and contract around him. The blinding light faded, and Jake staggered, his boots no longer touching the concrete floor of his workshop. Instead, he stood on a smooth, glassy surface that reflected an array of colors from 1,000 points of light. He blinked, adjusting to the surreal scene before him. Around him stretched a massive chamber, vast and filled with strange, organic structures that seemed to pulse and glow in response to his presence. The walls were curved, arching gracefully overhead like the inside of some giant seashell, casting a dim, ambient glow across the room. He took a shaky step forward, marveling at the translucent, iridescent material beneath his feet. It was like standing on a living piece of artwork, with swirling patterns shifting underfoot in intricate, alien designs. Strange symbols hovered in the air, casting faint shadows that danced in the pulsating light. There was a faint hum throughout the chamber, a vibration that resonated through his chest as if the entire ship were alive, breathing. And then he noticed them, silhouetted against the shimmering walls. A group of tall, slender figures stood watching him, their elongated limbs and graceful movements like nothing he'd ever seen. They were humanoid, yet distinctly alien, with shimmering skin that reflected the ambient glow of the chamber. Their large, dark eyes regarded him with a mixture of curiosity and caution. He could feel their gaze, as though they were studying him, assessing his every feature, his every breath. Jake's heart pounded as he tried to process his surroundings, his gaze darting between the strange creatures and the towering structures around him. Each detail hinted at a technology beyond his understanding, a world far removed from anything he'd ever known. His hand tightened instinctively around the alien tool, now cool and inert, as he felt the weight of his new reality pressing down on him. Jake's breath caught as one of the aliens stepped forward, its movements smooth and fluid, as if it were gliding rather than walking. It raised a long, slender arm and gestured with an elegance that seemed almost ritualistic, its other hand resting over what looked like a chest plate made of gleaming, organic metal. The alien's gaze was intense, as though it could peer right through him, and though it didn't speak, Jake felt a wave of thoughts flow into his mind. It was communication, but not through words. Images, emotions, and concepts flooding his senses in rapid succession. He saw flashes of a vast star field, a roaring storm of cosmic energy, and a spaceship, a sleek, breathtakingly intricate vessel, unmistakably damaged, sparking and shuddering in the void. The images were accompanied by a heavy sense of urgency, of something essential left broken and incomplete. Then came a final image, as vivid as if he were holding it in his hands. A powerful, alien engine with parts fused, broken, and scattered. Jake's chest tightened as he pieced together the message. This ship, these beings, needed his help. Somehow, they knew he was a mechanic, someone who worked with his hands, someone who could understand machines in a way others couldn't. They didn't have the instinct or the feel for tools and repair that he did. They might have technology far beyond anything he'd ever dreamed of, but they lacked the intuition that years of grease and grit had given him. A familiar sense of purpose settled over him, and he straightened, taking stock of his surroundings with a mechanic's practiced eye. He looked back at the alien in front of him, giving a small nod to signal his understanding. The figure gestured once more, leading him down a long, curved corridor lined with glowing symbols that pulsed faintly as they walked. Jake's boots made a soft, echoing sound against the smooth, metallic floor, and he could feel the pulse of the ship's systems under his feet, like a distant heartbeat. As they entered a large, open bay filled with strange machinery and shimmering control panels, Jake could see the warp drive at the center. It was a thing of beauty, delicate filaments of energy intertwined around a core that pulsated with a quiet power. But it was clearly damaged, with parts misaligned, loose panels, and unfamiliar components sparking with small flashes of light. It looked fragile, yet immensely powerful, a device engineered with a finesse far beyond anything humans had developed. Jake examined the intricate mess in front of him, his hands twitching with the urge to start tinkering. He could feel the eyes of the aliens on him, a mix of hope and expectation in their gazes. Jake took a deep breath, steadying himself as he approached the warp drive. It loomed above him, a complex and alien masterpiece of engineering, with tendrils of energy snaking through its core, lighting the room with pulses of violet and green. He studied the machine, his mind racing to decipher the chaotic tangle of parts, conduits, and strange organic materials that seemed to pulse like veins. He had seen advanced engines before, but nothing like this. And yet, beneath the alien design, he could still sense the familiar structure, the bones of a system meant to drive power, to push energy through space. He rolled up his sleeves, reached for his toolbox, and dug for a few basic tools that he hoped would work. The alien device he'd stumbled upon earlier lay silent at the edge, a small reminder of how far from home he was. He slid a screwdriver between two metal plates, twisting carefully, watching the pieces shift and click with a startling precision. The ship hummed louder, as if acknowledging his efforts, and he felt that strange, unspoken bond between mechanic and machine grow stronger with each turn of his wrist. As he worked, he became aware of the aliens standing around him, their faces showing something that looked like awe, their large, dark eyes reflecting his every movement. They whispered softly to each other in their strange, musical language, but none interrupted his work. They seemed fascinated, as if witnessing a rare phenomenon, a kind of magic. The alien engine had damage that was both severe and subtle, and Jake found himself improvising on instinct. He didn't fully understand the purpose of every component, but his hands worked with a surety born of decades of fixing, mending, and rigging together failing systems. The warp core had several misaligned elements, and he gently coaxed the glowing filaments back into place, carefully bridging cracked conduits with metal clamps and sealing fractures with a specialized bonding compound he always carried in his toolbox. The alien machinery responded, emitting soft clicks and hums that were strangely gratifying. Hours passed, or perhaps days. Time had lost its meaning as he became absorbed in the intricate work. Sweat dripped down his forehead, and his hands ached, but he kept going, his focus unwavering. With each adjustment, he felt a renewed sense of purpose, a realization that maybe all those years of working alone in a dusty repair shop on New Terra had led him to this moment. With a final twist of his wrench, Jake stepped back, breathing a sigh of relief as the warp drive emitted a deep, resonant hum and pulsed with steady light. The aliens around him murmured in what he could only assume was approval, their faces reflecting a mixture of gratitude and admiration. One of the aliens, the one who had first communicated with him, stepped forward, bowing its head in a gesture of respect and extending a long, slender hand toward him. In its palm lay a small, shimmering object. It was the same tool that had brought him here, but now it had a new, subtle design, with intricate engravings etched along its smooth, iridescent surface. The alien pressed it gently into his hand, and Jake understood. It was a gift, a piece of their technology, a memento of this strange and impossible journey. As he looked down at the device, he noticed it was glowing faintly again, casting a soft blue light across his hands. The alien gestured toward it, and Jake felt a familiar tingling sensation wash over him, the same energy that had brought him to their ship. He clutched the device, feeling its gentle warmth, a reminder of the connection he'd formed with these beings and their world.